His Excellency FCPA Ahmed Abdullahi, who is the chairperson of the Council of Governors, and the governor of Wajir County. He was in government as a governor in 2013, 2017, and lost. So he has some experience of winning and losing, and also winning. He's known for advancing devolution and delivering key development projects. He holds a Bachelor of Commerce and CPA from CASNEP. Please underline CASNEP there. And the USA, and an MBA from Strathmore University with prior roles at Deloitte, at Barclays, and as Petroleum. His leadership has earned him national recognition for excellence in governance. Please join me in welcoming His Excellency, the Chairman of the Council of Governors, Ahmed Abdullahi, to address us. Then we shall be able to take a session to ask questions to both the Controller of Budget and the Chair of the Controller of Budget. Please continue clapping for him until he stands here.
Thank you, Nicholas. Thank you very much. Good morning, everybody. I'm Jambo. Assalamu alaikum. Now everybody knows my age when Latin says I was his classmate. So I can't lie about that anymore, right? Very good. You know, and the controller did a thorough work, and you know, the very powerful presentation. You know, she's still a professional. I'm a politician. So you'll allow me to do more talking and less presenting. I have a speech here, which I'll read, and then you'll give me another 10 or so minutes to talk off the cuff. You know, in the Moi years, those who are around, you didn't listen to Moi's written speech. You listen to what he says after the speech. My name is FCPA Ahmed Abdullahi, as introduced. I was a governor 2013. So as he said, I know, and I don't agree that I know how to lose. I know how to win and how to be made to lose. Right? Because my petition is very famous. I won in the High Court in 2018. I won in the Court of Appeal, and I lost in the Supreme Court. And it's the only petition that divided the Supreme Court other than the one of the presidency. So, and you should go and read the judgments. I won elections 3 times as governor, but I was meant to lose 1 time. That's a story for another day. So let me begin. Ladies and gentlemen, let me begin by invoking the wisdom of one of the most acclaimed African authors, Chinua Achebe, whose novel, A Man of the People, resonates with us years after its publication. This book not only offers a powerful critique of post-colonial leadership and powerful corruption, and political corruption, rather, in Africa, but also explores themes of greed, morality, and good governance. Allow me to whet your appetite. The book is set against the backdrop of a fictional country called Kinjanja. The narrative follows Odi Samalu, a young and idealistic school teacher who becomes embroiled in the world of politics. As Odili navigates the political landscape, Odili encounters a charismatic and enigmatic politician by the name of Chief Nanga, who is loved and revered by the masses, but harbors a dark underbelly. Does it sound familiar? It should. Chief Nanga is a mirror that serves as a potent criticism of both the political leaders who exploit their positions for personal gain and the wider social structures that enable corruption to flourish. Today, I am honored to share with you a key insight. Our county governments are not the chief nangas of Kinjanja, far from it. They are constitutional institutions that are shaping the conversation of good governance by taking accountable leadership to the grassroots level. Ladies and gentlemen, it is a great honor and gratitude that I stand before you today to speak on this topic entitled Enhancing Devolved Governance in Building Local Resilience, Public Trust, and Sustainable Development. Imagine a child in Mandera grazing at a dry riverbed, dreaming of a day when water flows freely. Imagine a trader in Kisumu, her goods stuck on a muddy road, hoping for a road to the market. Imagine a parent in Mombasa, praying for a health facility close enough to save her fevered child. These are not just images. These are some of the inspirations of Kenyans that led to the promulgation of the Constitution of Kenya 2010. Our Constitution marked a significant departure from the old order, which adopted a top-down approach where government decisions were made by policymakers in boardrooms with little or no input from the citizenry. At the heart of Kenya's transformative agenda of adopting devolution to 47 governments, usually we say 48 governments and one nation. 47 county governments, the national government, and one nation called Kenya. At the heart of Kenya's transformative process of adopting devolution to 47 county governments is the expectation that devolution would increase responsiveness and accountability of the government to its citizens. Precisely, devolution was a much-needed institutional response to long-standing grievances over centralization of state powers and public sector resources, inequality, lack of public participation, inefficient accountability, and lack of transparency, marginalization, to mention but a few. Those are the things that devolution was trying to address. Good governance is the compass that guides devolution, ensuring power flows from the people and for the people. Good governance that's rooted in participation, transparency, accountability, inclusion, is the engine driving resilience, trust, sustainability for our counties. Let me try and show you how. On building local resilience, county governments are focused on strengthening institutions up to the village level with different, levels of success. In achieving this, county governments have put in place measures to address discrimination, marginalization, and exploitation that disadvantaged groups have experienced over time. Devolved governance has bridged historical inequalities. Presently, all people, including the marginalized and minorities, can reap the benefits of self-governance and manage their development and affairs. For instance, West Pokot is largely a patriarchal society where women defer to the decisions made by their male counterparts. However, the West Pokot County government has adopted the actor-centric perspective with affirmative actions to permit a greater participation of women, youth, immigrants, people with special needs, and other discriminated or vulnerable groups. These developments have largely and significantly altered the course of how vulnerable groups engage in public participation forums, thus promoting inclusivity. On fostering public trust, counties believe that public trust thrives on ethical leadership and good governance. Trust in governance is the foundation of peace and economic stability. Without it, investments dry up, societal cohesion unravels, and development stagnates. Aware of how important fostering public trust is, county governments have done and continue to do the following. County governments have progressively enhanced the role and positioning of internal audit units in county governments. Internal auditors consistently advise counties on effectiveness of risk management, controls, and governance processes. Resultantly, these units provide objective assurance and consulting activities in counties that add value and improve on county performance and service delivery. Two, the county governors have ensured that there is an oversight or internal audit component in all projects implemented in conjunction with development partners. Counties have enacted county public participation acts to enhance meaningful participation of citizens. Counties have operationalized Access to Information Act to improve access to information on finances and service delivery performances, thereby building public trust in government. Counties have established the citizen-led project management committees, PMCs, to oversee project identification, implementation, and monitoring. Consequently, the same has given the public a platform for managing their own affairs and having their voices heard. County governments have also established robust anti-corruption frameworks that prioritizes transparency in procurement processes. Aware that sustainable development requires huge investment, the county governments have ensured that at least 30% of their allocation goes towards development, thus enhancing sustainability. In fact, the controller will not approve a budget that does not have 30% development. In conclusion, to fully realize the fruits of devolution, we recommend the following. To the national government, increase budgetary allocation from the exchequer to allow county governments to fully realize benefits of devolution. And to county governments, invest in civic education and community engagement. Mistrust often stems from a lack of understanding and interaction between the citizens and the institution. I thank you all. Now, that was my formal speech. Honestly, I think it's been a journey. For those of us who are old enough, we know where we came from. We came from a very powerful center, and we yearned for a new constitution for over 20 years. When I was in high school, I went to primary school in my village and came to Nairobi for high school. There used to be the Sabasabas, right? And the Shikuku and Matiba and Orengo and Raila. And you know what we went through. That culminated after a very long process in a compromise constitutional process which in 2010 resulted in the 47 counties. And promulgation happened in 2010, the first county governments in 2013. We've come a long way. And the idea was to devolve resources and power to the grassroots, weaken the powerful center, and bring some level of equity and equality. I think a lot has been achieved, right? But the other day I saw one of my senators, actually we're in the same party, one of our senators, and I respect him a lot, talk about financial viability of counties. First of all, counties are not revenue centers. They are not profit centers. So the question of financial viability does not arise. Why do I say that? Under Article 209, all the major taxes direct and indirect, are collected and collected at the center. What taxes do counties raise? Land rates, entertainment, and user levies. You can't raise a lot of money in certain places from taxes or levies of that nature. You may raise a lot of land rates in Nairobi and Mombasa, but you can't raise that from Turkana, Wajir, West Pokot, and the like. So the system that we took, and as envisaged by the framers of the Constitution, was that we collect the taxes at the center, and we distribute those taxes between the two levels of government on the basis of the functions assigned to each level of government by the Constitution. And that is the crux of the matter. That in dividing the revenues vertically between the two levels of government under Article 203, resources should follow functions. Resources should follow functions. So what that then means is, for functions under the fourth schedule that have been devolved and transferred, and there are 14 of them, national government has only one role: policy. And the implementation belongs to the counties. How then does the Ministry of Health as national government retain 100 billion shillings for health? You know, and unless we speak about these things and understand them and be truthful about them, we will not solve our problem. So the debate has been, do we need 47 counties? I don't know. But it's a conversation we're willing to have. 15 years after the promulgation of the Constitution. And there are people here that I see, very respected Kenyans, who are bigger experts on these matters than I am. I can see Wakili Kanjama there. It's a debate we are willing to have as a Council of Governors. Our budget hovers around 4 trillion shillings a year. That's an open secret. Who doesn't know what the budget of Kenya is? It's flashed, all over the newspapers. We usually talk of 4.2 trillion. When you press Mbadi a bit, CS, he'll tell you, but sometimes we overstate our revenue. But it's around 4 trillion. Counties, at best, get 10% of that budget. The last one, we got 387 billion shillings as equitable share. This year, Treasury is suggesting 4 or 5 billion. So we're getting 10% of the budget. 90% of the budget is still with the national government. And we're feeling overburdened by counties, getting 10% of the budget to do those 14 functions in the fourth schedule, which functions are very critical: water, healthcare, basic roads, ECD. So let's have an honest conversation about whether we have actually, faithfully, and honestly implemented the Constitution, first of all. It was a reasonable expectation that with 47 devolved governments, the national government should shrink. Actually, the national government has expanded. Yes, it has expanded. Let's look at the growth in payroll for the national government from 2013 to date. Yet, all the healthcare workers, workers in the water sector, agriculture, livestock, name it, are all now with the counties. I believe that the counties have achieved what they ought to have achieved, even without us fully and honestly implementing the Constitution. In 2013, we had about 800 or so doctors in district hospitals. Today, we have over 5,000 doctors in hospitals working in the counties. We had about, give or take, 6,000 nurses across the district hospitals. Today, we have over 32,000 nurses. ECD was virtually non-existent. It was virtually non-existent. Probably had nursery schools in a few municipalities here and there. In most of the rural areas, it's parents that were asked to pay for nursery school. And in places like mine, the nursery school kids will be kept under a tree because there's no class for them. Today, we have over 42,000 ECD teachers in payrolls of county governments. And there's better ambulatory services. There are even medical training colleges constructed by counties, training healthcare workers. So a lot has been achieved. Counties have done what they ought to have done, what they were supposed to do, which is take services closer to the people. But I think we have systemic challenges. Some of them are drawn from our political structures and systems. In trying to find a constitutional solution to the Kenyan question, to address the Sabasabas and the Mandamanos, I think what we did as a country was to go and copy-paste constitutions of other countries. We took very robust systems which we thought worked well for others, and we thought they were going to work well for us. What I don't know, I'm a student of governance, but I'm not a political scientist. In that sense, the debate is whether we took the South African system or the American system or the Nigerian system, or we just picked all of them, we copied a paragraph from here, another from here, and then came up with a mongrel of a system which we don't know whether it's working or not. Let's assume we took the American system. Well, this manner of majority leader, minority leader, it sounds more like the American system, right? Can you imagine Biden and Trump coming together halfway in the course of the term? But in our case, it had to happen to stabilize government. It had to happen. Otherwise, you're going to lose the country. So, and why do I say some problems are structural and systemic? We're now in April. The fiscal year is coming to an end. We're still struggling to pass what's called the County Government Additional Allocation Act, which is holding 42 billion shillings in mostly development partner resources and even some GOK conditional grants to counties. And we're trying to unlock that. Why? Because Parliament has been filibustering it, National Assembly in particular, through quorum hitches as a result of fights over road maintenance levy fund. I agree with everything my sister presented here. And she's a professional trying to do her best in a difficult environment. But what budget controls can there be if we cannot even stick to the deadlines in the law, in the PFM Act, with respect to passing of budgets? We're keeping our fingers crossed that this gets passed today. If it does, how much time will there be to implement this? And why? Because we have, as a country, converted every elective position into a position of executive, formally or informally, legally and illegally. This is the truth of the matter. And those of us in the executive, whether at the presidency or at the governor level, have to continually buy our peace. Just to move anything. This is the reality. If I have a conversation with controller about ward development funds, she'll tell me it's illegal. I can never pass my budget without promising something to the wards. You think the president can tell MPs CDF is illegal? He cannot. He cannot. So the conversation about the constitution, let's be honest, it's a conversation we're willing to have. There is no doubt that a lot of Kenyans agree that the best takeout for the common man from the 2010 constitution was devolution. Can you imagine your county headquarters or your sub-county headquarters, because you all come from one, without devolution today, where it will be? Go back 13 years in time. But devolution still, in the wider scheme of things, is being treated as the illegitimate child. The system is rigged against devolution in every which sense. Because we're given 10% of the resources, but we take 90% of the blame. In fact, when the controller was presenting here, I think she mentioned devolution 9 out of 10 times, or counties 9 out of 10 times. This is the reality. This is the reality. We need to have conversations about what has worked and what has not worked, but we need to be. And I think it's because it's also easier for the independent offices and commissions to speak about devolution and about counties and about their ills and their misdeeds than it is for them to speak about the center. Because counties have no leverage over anybody. We can't send KRA on you. We can't. We have no power of violence. So the governor's position is not a very protected position. I can tell you for free, go and ask Kawira Mwangaza. How was she impeached before she formed cabinet? Can you imagine a Kenyan president being impeached before he has formed cabinet? Wakili, can that ever happen in Kenya? Before forming cabinet, what mistake would you have committed before you even formed cabinet? She had not named her CECs. So, and these role conflicts, these positions that we've created, and sometimes I get asked, is it the people or the politics of things? I think it's both. Will the Kenyan public respect a member of parliament who doesn't have CDF? Right? And so those are the things that are killing devolution. But I believe for 10% of the budget, we have exceeded expectations. Actually, we have done much more. Part of our financial problems also is how we have mismanaged our debt. The controller was a bit shy to speak about that. She said she's not going to get into that. But our problems also emanate from how we have managed debt since 2013. Since the promulgation of the 2010 Constitution, and especially from the day Kibaki left office, how we have managed debt. I was in the first cohort of governors, as I said, and we kept raising this, that national government is using debt to front-load its share. They were taking debt irresponsibly. And now we've put ourselves in a situation where we can't manage this country without debt, even to run the basics. So as counties, we have all these challenges. Resources are not following function, so we're not getting our fair share of resources. There are institutional challenges. Of course, the resources is both quantum, in the sheer amount of resources that we ought to get vis-a-vis what we're getting, and also in the timing. There are delays. A lot of the counties are now accessing February and disbursements from the consolidated fund, from their share of the equitable share for February. We're in April. So how are we expected to pay salaries for healthcare workers? And Mbadi has really tried, actually. CS Mbadi has really tried. In fact, it used to be like 4 months in arrears. Now we're talking of 2 months. But even with 2 months, why should that nurse working in a dispensary at the Kenyan-Ethiopian border, 800 kilometers, 900 kilometers from Nairobi, receive her salary 90 days late, yet the one at KNH receives her salary at the end of the month? And they're both civil servants being paid through Kenyans and taxpayers' money. So these are some of the things. And this is why I'm saying we still feel that devolution has not been embraced, both as a national value and as a legitimate constitutional requirement by the policymakers and by the powers that be. So there are institutional challenges. These counties are still very young, and usually we don't take out rarely would you take out the non-political appointees, controller. I'm not saying it doesn't happen, but usually the ones that are taken out are the political appointees, the chief officers and the CECs. And yes, governors are also politicians. There are those who are with you on the campaign trail. So that happens in all democracies. There's the matter of pending bills. I have a different perspective of pending bills. At both national and county level, if there is one thing that is clearly as a result of mismanagement, it's pending bills. That I accept as the chair of the Council of Governors. And I believe the overstating or overestimation of on-resource revenue accounts for a very small percentage of our pending bill problem. The bigger portion of it is contracting when you do not have a budget. And it's illegal. It's actually criminal under PFM. That you commit when you have no budget. Usually, the amount attributed to overstatement of ONSO's revenue is something that can be corrected easily. Because you would rarely see a county that overestimates its ONSO's revenue by 100% or 200%, rarely. And if it does, then it must be a very small amount in absolute terms. When I went back to my county, after I was away for 5 years, people were claiming 8 billion shillings in pending bills. 8 billion shillings. Yet when I left, whatever I had in the CRF and the 1 month that I didn't receive, because I had not received money for July of 2022, was more than offsetting the debts I left. Then I go back to account with 8 billion shillings. Pending bill. So the system then ought to work and see how did we incur 8 billion shillings. And it's not as easy as saying the governor was responsible. Not all governors understand finances. That's why they are ministers. That's why they are accountants. So also individual responsibility. But yes, there's a pending bills crisis. I also agree that it can be contributed to, and must have been contributed to partly, by requesting money for certain things and paying others, or not applying what you requested the money for to the sources that, mismatching the requisitions and the money when it comes. But if the system was working as envisaged, it should have picked that before it gets to that kind of level. And there is no safety valve. There's no bailout for counties that make those kind of mistakes. I've talked about the filibustering of the budget process. I'm concluding now. This thing is so painful that when I had a conversation with the country director of the World Bank, he shared his frustration and he told me Kenya's absorption of World Bank monies is at 8%. It's lower than countries at war. It's lower than failed states. Why? Because of the fights over and the budget process. And surely it will be 8% if in May we have not passed a legislation that should have been signed off by 1st of July. The budget system, the way it works, it envisages that by the end of one fiscal year, you have put in place all the laws that you need for the next fiscal year. If money has not been appropriated in May, by May, and the fiscal year is closing at 30th of June, then surely there's no way that money will be spent. There's also the question that usually comes at the end of every end of the first quarter. The media houses will tell Kenyans how counties have spent zero money on development. This usually happens at the end of quarter one. The report comes out around sometime in October, if I'm right. Sometime in October. And usually what they do, they show the face of the governor on TV. So they'll beam my face and then write 0% on development. Wataka face ya Sharif, 0%. This is how. A lot of this development money that counties spend is either through conditional grants, donor monies. The one that I'm saying up to today has not even been appropriated, or through the equitable share. Every county submits a budget at the beginning of the fiscal year. And that budget has a certain percentage of development expenditure. Keeping all things constant, if money is released timeously, at the end of the year, the county should actually have spent that percentage in development. Government is still running a cash-based system. The accountants in the house, and I can see there are many of them, will understand the difference between accrual accounting and cash basis accounting. So you only recognize your expenditure when you actually pay. And a lot of the time, because of these delays in the budgeting process, during the transition from one fiscal to the other, counties probably receive money the last week of September. Sometimes they receive the first shilling in an account from which they can spend. I'll take another 2 minutes only. When he comes here, he's telling me to speed it up. From an account from which they can spend in October. So you're being accused of not spending money you didn't have. And everything I'm saying here, I'm saying because of the question of public trust. The way the system works, it's like it's been set to ensure that we constantly keep reducing the trust of the public in the county and governments and devolution. Because when you're constantly accusing county governments of not spending money on development, yet the money has not been released. When you're constantly accusing county governments of being unable to manage health, and I've shown here the figures. In fact, even the facilities have more than quadrupled. Yet, the salaries for nurses comes 4 months late. Then you've been set up for failure. What we need to fix is how the financial system and the funds flow works, and then hold governors and county governments to account on the basis of the law. I think that's all I want to say. I want all of you. There are a lot of emerging issues now. Climate change has been spoken to. It's a challenge. And of course, it comes also with all these people scavenging for carbon credit monies in our counties. Every other day you hear someone has set up a conservancy and has linked up with some wazungu somewhere, and they're earning money out of your vegetation you don't even know. There's the issue of minerals. We find nationalities of all manner in very peripheral places speculating for minerals. It's a problem. And then generally land management is also a very, very serious problem. I think you've seen that even our titling system is now being into question, and these things are not good for investments. My conclusion is devolution is the best thing that ever happened to Kenya. Number one. Number two, we believe that the problem is not the 47 counties. In fact, the 47 counties have helped stabilize the center because they have devolved the fights. You can imagine if all those fights were at the center. And you can see the fights at the center almost bringing down Kenya. Right? If you are giving us 10% of the resources and we're helping you keep the country stable by devolving the fights to 47 different places, why do you feel overburdened by county governments? But it's a conversation we're willing to have. Much as counties have been a blessing to Kenyans, counties also have been a blessing to the centralists at the center of policy decisions who have now found a scapegoat. They blame counties for everything. We get 10% of the budget. Half of that goes to pay salaries. So 5% of the national budget is what counties have to deal with everything else other than salaries. Of that 1%, of that 5% goes to the county assemblies, and I can see some of the speakers are here. So we remain with what? 4% of the national budget to do recurrent and development expenditure. That includes buying medicines, ensuring the ambulances are working, building new ECDs. Let's, for argument's sake here, you are guys of numbers, assume even 25% of that's lost to corruption. Dr. Letting, what is 25% of 4%? It's 1%. So the maximum you can lose to corruption in counties is 1% of the national budget. And we read in the newspapers that 30% of the budget is lost to corruption. So where is that 30% being spent? Have a blessed day.
My classmate has actually, when he used to be in my class, he was not speaking like this. I think politics have changed him. And you can give him another round of applause. We would like to request the control of budget to come up front. We'll have a few series of questions. And we'd like to recognize at this stage Your Excellency and the control of budget. We recognize that counties are also here. Chairman, if you are chairman, you can be chairman of a cattle dip or a chairman of a public service board or whatever. Can you put up your hand so that we see how many are you? Chairman. Chairman of something. Yes, you can stand up. I think you are not very many. Please stand up if you are chairman. I can see William Katei there, chairman of Jandarua, and others. I don't want to mention them because I may not know. You can clap for them. Thank you. We have the speakers. Speakers of various assemblies and speakers. May I see you? May I see if there is? I think there are. Yes, that's a speaker. There is a speaker there. Speakers, clerks of assemblies. Clerks of assemblies. You can clap for them. And county board members, public sector board members and others. If you are here, you can also be upstanding. We really want to appreciate the counties and especially Wajir and others. Kuala is also represented. I think the Kuala governor is somewhere, I don't know. We know that there will be, we have a lot of, at ICPSK we have a lot of training capacities for the county government, even with that budget which is controlled, Your Excellency. We still want to build capacity, especially on how to manage resources, because we have realized that the problem is actually resource management. Do you agree with me? So questions from anyone? Maybe this column, because of time, one from every. We agree that we are going to have one person from here. I can see William FCS Katei. Can somebody give him a mic? Pana Katei, I have known you for very many years. Please summarize your question today.
Thank you. I'm going to be a good student.
Very well.
As I followed the conversation from the governor of Wajir, I think I can only agree better that what lacks between the two levels of government is goodwill. So there is what you call the big brother syndrome. But it's the high time that we run that the two levels are serving one common factor, Wajiko. And hence the need to ensure that delineation of functions under Schedule 4. Those functions need to be devolved fully, and of course, resources have to follow functions. I also empathize with the fact that ECDs have suffered greatly. Imagine that is a nursery bed for the future president, the future governor, and we have no funds for ECDs. Infrastructures are wanting, and it's only because there's no resources. Now, I also want to, much as I empathize with the counties and the fact that there is delay in revolvement, in trickling of funds from the national to county governments, I also would like the counties to introspect. The risk management framework is a very important governance tool. That is the tool that we must ensure that every county puts in place to mitigate against risk. Look at risk identification, help look at risk mitigation, risk reporting, and risk governance. Once we get the risk management aspect right, then we'll help to reduce the waste at the county level.
Thank you so much.
Thank
you can clap for Katei. He has summarized today. And he has made various comments. I think the county government have made their he has given advice to the government. Kanjama, His Excellency the Governor mentioned you. Maybe you want to give us a solution. I used to watch you during the Constitution 2010 discussion. I don't know whether your thought process has changed now. Over to you, Kanjama.
Thank you, Mr. Leting, Dr. Leting, and thank you to the presenters. I think you've done both an excellent job in dealing with the topic. I have a question for the control of budget, and it's related to my understanding of the constitutional architecture. When we were drafting the new constitution, we put a lot of emphasis in ensuring that there were control measures, institutions, and mechanisms at the national government level to ensure good governance, to fight corruption, and so on. When we drafted Chapter 11 of the Constitution on the counties, this was a new thing. So we focused on the principal governance entities, the County Assembly, the County Executive Committee, and even the County Public Service Board is something that came through legislation. But Article 6 of the Constitution requires the national organs of government to decentralize to the counties. And I know that the constitutional commissions and independent offices, you normally have an association, you meet to discuss your affairs. To what extent is the Office of Control of Budget and the other governance organs at the national level, the Chapter 15 commissions, to what extent have they decentralized to the counties so that they are able to help the counties implement the governance and control requirements that are being implemented at the national level, even on issues of pending bills and so on. And corresponding to that, my question to the governor, do you feel that probably there is a bit of a gap in the decentralization of the national government organs that forces county governors to spend a lot of time in Nairobi chasing money, chasing approval from the controller of budget? Are the constitutional commissions and independent offices of government that are at national level but are meant to serve the counties, are they working effectively? And what is your recommendation to improve the collaboration between national and county government at the level of the control institutions? Thank you.
Thank you very much. You know, Kanjama is a lawyer, and these lawyers have a lot of words to say before they finish what they are presenting. Anyone there? There's a hand there. There's Sila, behind Sila. FCS Sila, I think somebody behind you. Can you give him the mic? And then the chair of the council to come, to speak up something. You'll agree with me the discussion is very healthy. We come from counties. I come from Nandi County. And where I live, there's no road. And it's not far from the tarmac. And there's no security. So please speak up there.
Okay, thank you very much. I'll be quick, Prof. My name is Ochuodo Peter. My question goes to the controller of budget. Daktari. With the county governments, and I think this has been alluded to, when they come for, it is like they camp at your office every week. And today out there they are saying that the controller of budget, before she approves funds, you need to bring everything, including the warrants, including the payment vouchers, for confirmations to be done. And today out there they are saying that the controller of budget is actually auditing. That's what they are saying, it's not me saying. Is it possible that your office can automate so that everything that is required by your office is sent electronically? Perhaps it would help to save the time for traveling and everything else. Is it possible that you can automate those things that you are done manually? Thank you.
A bonus question for Sila there. Just 1 minute, Sila. I know you also like what Katei, but just summarize today also.
Thank you, Prof. This goes straight away to His Excellency, the Chair of Council of Governors. There was that promise that this famous case that is in court about roads will be withdrawn. How fast are they going to withdraw this case? Thank you, Chair.
Thank you, Sila. You can clap for Sila for summarizing. Chairman, you know you have a lot of experience having been in County of Makueni, which was the best in Kenya for some time. Maybe you can tell us something from there.
Yeah, thank you. Not from that perspective. I am concerned about the pending bills. Is there nothing really we can do? Because there seems to be a competition between, amongst counties, because assuming that the development will have taken place and then you have got your pending bill, your county will be consuming that development and they will be enjoying something, assuming that the development has taken place and there is a pending bill. And therefore that means logically all the governors will be competing to have pending bills, and this is a major issue to this country. Does the solution lie in the PFM Act? Does it need to be reviewed so that we introduce some punishment, some penalties within the Act, and then we make sure that they are implemented, because this is a big animal in the House. Thank you.
Thank you so much. We'll take the questions that have already come from the floor. If there will be any other questions, so our leaders here, ladies first. I'm not using any protocol issue. Please cover the controller. Yeah.
So thanks a lot again, session chair, and thank you for those who have raised these questions, because it means you have indeed been listening. And the first one, of course, was comment. The second one is where we are speaking about constitutional architecture, where Kanjama, the lawyer, is talking about the control measures at the national level, which I agree with. Now, about decentralization. Really the question here is, to what extent have I centralized? And when I'm asked a question about extent, it's about a percentage. And my percentage is 100%. Why do I say 100%? Because I am represented in every county treasury across the country. Each county treasury has an officer from the controller of budget. So what does this one officer do? And what can they possibly do being alone? Because the numbers are controlled from treasury. We cannot recruit until we have permission from treasury to increase the P&E budget. So this one officer ensures that the documentation that is attached to the requisitions is sufficient. Sometimes they have questions at the county level which they cannot answer and which we then handle at the headquarters. So what we have done, we have a checklist, a complete checklist of what the officer, whom we call the county budget coordinator, does at the county level, and there is also what is done by the fiscal analysts who sit at the headquarters in Nairobi. So I don't think I have enough time to now go through the job description, but suffice it to say that this officer at least will ensure that there is a budget for the requisition that is coming, and that that budget has funds, has a balance which will cover the requisition that is being made. They'll also ensure that there is a work plan. If it is a development program, that there is a work plan accompanying that requisition, and that there is a schedule to come with it. Now, so we want to ask, and this will also combine with the question that came from the back. What is it that officers from the counties come to do at the COB's office? This is a question I've been asking for the last, it's almost 6 years now. I don't know what they come to do. I don't know whom they come to see. I've asked many governors, including my brother here, what do your officers come to do in Nairobi? And the reason they come to Nairobi is they want to earn allowances. Nobody wants them there. Nobody has ever asked them to come. And if you can show me one that I've asked to come to my office, I will own up. I don't need anybody from the counties. I have enough staff to analyze the documents which are brought. Those documents can come by courier, and we'll look at them, and I will approve and sign, and they'll go to the CBK. But politics aside, because these are politics of allowances, those people don't come to help us to do anything, and nobody wants them in my office. That process is about to end. I remember I addressed a group of accountants, and I told them that system is on its deathbed. Currently, we have designed a system where documents are going to be sent online. The attachments will just be scanned and sent to us. We will check them online. I will approve online, and all these things will go to the CBK, and the funds will be transferred online. In fact, I'm telling you, within the next financial year, those trips are a thing of the past. Same thing to pending bills. The World Bank has sponsored a study and a process where we have crafted pending bills monitoring tool. And this tool is going to be online, and you'll be able to go online and find out what the pending bills are and verify whether they have been settled. So again, there is a process going on. From the CBK, they have enhanced the core banking system, whereby only requisitions that are funded will be uploaded on the internet banking. What that means is that issues of substitution, which again the governor here spoke about, will also be a thing of the past. I don't want to be too optimistic, but if all goes well, the next time we meet here, the story will be very different. So I hope that with that, I have answered both the question from Mr. Kanjama and from Mr. Ochodo, who was there at the back. So we are indeed automating. This is happening, and you will all see it. For what the chairman, Mr. Wambua, said, is there nothing we can do about pending bills? Again, in that process, Part of the monitoring is that what will happen if the person responsible for the pending bills does not do what they have undertaken to do. I think there is a lot going on right now, and please let's compare notes same time next year. Things will have changed completely. Thank you very much.